What's up, guys? It's the Lowdown with Jeremy Conn here for Pickdawgz. Make sure you like, subscribe, and of course hit that notification button. It'll help you out. You can check out what all the great cappers over at Pickdawgz are doing, their favorite plays, the packages, all of it's over there. And as I've said, if you comment, I try to go back and respond to everybody. One of the things I'm waiting to hear, because I watched my last video, is the hell's going on with my eyes? So just so you guys know, like, I got a window in front of me here, a window there. And I can see my neighbors and everybody moving around. And then I have a door you can see the door back here and another door over there. So constantly my dog running in and out, my kids leaving, people outside, but maybe I'm just a squirrely SOB. I don't know. Like, what's going on? But I'll try to fix it if I can. It's the weird thing. Like when you're in radio, you're doing this for a long period of time, you start doing videos, you start to notice, like, okay, crutch words. Do I say, what was one that I had a long time ago? There's the one that athletes have all the time, I would say obviously. Like somebody asked me a question, I'd be like, obviously you look at, and then someone told me and I went, the hell do you keep saying that word for? And then it takes a while to work on it and recognize it. But I'll try to stop being squirrely and look right at the camera. But maybe I am just that way. Anyway, it's been an interesting weekend for me. I want to go back to one of the games I didn't have a chance to talk about. I lost my first weather play on Saturday. That was the Nats and the Nats and Marlins over is what I had. It was 9. And it's one of those games where it's like you feel really lucky to have a chance in the 9th because they had a ton of base runners. I mean, they finished with the bases loaded a couple times, and I think one time got in 1 run and another time nobody scored. So we did have guys on the base patch, just didn't get the clutch hits we need. And then all of a sudden we get to the 9th, and here come the Nats. Hit. Next thing you know, we need 1 run to tie it at 4 apiece, first and third, no outs. And they can't get the guy from third in. So if the guy from third comes in, then I'm at least guaranteed a push at worst, and then possibly a chance to go 4-0 on my weather plays. But I digress. This is what happens sometimes, and nobody wants to hear it, but I'll say it. It's baseball, and you got to get 27 outs. That's why this sport is so different than every other one. The game's not over until they tell you it's over, if they shorten it or whatever. But back today with some more weather talk. You guys are going to hear me be a little repetitive at times with some of the things I talk about: humidity, wind, pitching matchups, and obviously everything's subject to change. I record a little bit earlier than most of the guys just because of my schedule, so this is how I have to do it. But on day of, like, I have all my information. That's where, when we're looking at the picks, I start to feel a lot better. I'm one of those guys that I like to gather info. When I talk about analytics doing sports, and people are like, oh, I hate analytics. Analytics are stupid. Well, analytics are just information. You do with it what you will. If the analytics tell you this works 56% of the time, that means it's better than the 44%. And there are some people that'll take that to heart. Cold streaks, hot streaks, there are things that math guys don't believe in. You are what your numbers say you are. I know a lot of people think they're lefty mashers, and I've seen this talked about before too when it comes down to it. Don't know if you have enough data for it. So there's always arguments to be made with analytics, but like, I don't think you can argue what the statistics saying. If we got to football and it's like, oh man, this coach goes for it too much on 4th down, or he goes for 2-point conversions too much. And then you go, well, wait a minute. The math's telling you that you're going to hit this at a higher percent. The one I get to all the time, I'll get to baseball here in a second. If you listen to my pod, I'm going to get off into the weeds quite a bit and talk about a bunch of stuff. But, when people talk about being down 2 touchdowns, you guys will know exactly where I'm going with this. You're down 2 touchdowns. Do you go for 2 on the first touchdown, or do you kick the extra point? The math tells you that you have a higher percentage of a chance of scoring a touchdown and getting that 2-point conversion on the first try and winning the game outright in regulation if you score another one, or at worst, getting one of those 2-point conversions the second time to tie the game. There are people that are kind of stuck in their ways, and I get it. You want them to kick the extra point, then kick the extra point again, and go to overtime. And what the math's telling you is you have a better shot of winning in regulation by doing this than scoring, kicking the extra point, getting the ball back, scoring again, kicking the extra point, and then trying to win in overtime where there's a coin toss. So we can sit here and argue this till I'm blue in the face, but I've argued with MLB players, former players that are like, oh man, we're too analytical. I said, okay, I can listen to that if you think they're just going by the math too much. But then again, how do you fault a team that does it? So I've been rambling. Let me get to the plays because that's what you guys care about, not my nonsense. All right, we'll start it off with the Phillies and the Marlins. And it is a light slate today because of Monday. There is some rain in the forecast on the East Coast, so pay attention to that. And there is rain in the forecast here with the Phillies. And this is what we get. Phillies, Marlins, 90 degrees there. Rain. It looks like you're going to get some rain during the game. I don't know if it's enough to postpone it. Once we get closer to game time, you'll have a better idea of what the storms look like. But the wind is blowing in at about 8 miles an hour. It's Mick Abel versus Sandy Alcantara, whatever you want to call him. It's Sandy. What happened to him this year? I have no idea. He just got lit up at the beginning of the season. He was one of those trade commodities that everybody's talking about. If the Marlins have anybody that's good, they become a trade commodity because at one point they had Giancarlo Stanton, Marcell Ozuna, Christian Yelich, and JT Realmuto, and that really worked out for them. They traded all of them away. So in this game, I would lean under here, especially with the way the weather is. The one thing I'll say is on the East Coast, when it's raining and it's hot, the ball carries, man. And I know we've had a couple of games. I was talking about it over the weekend. Was it Friday and Saturday, I believe, with Baltimore and D.C. had the best hitting weather. And you saw it on Saturday with the Orioles, who can't hit lefties, and then they light up Tyler Anderson and win the game. And then the highest scoring game on the slate was Friday night in that Nats-Marlins. What was it? 20 runs were scored. And that's, we didn't just go back to the well because 20 runs were scored. It's just great hitting weather. Sometimes pitchers are just on. And what pissed me off about that Nats game going back to that was, Trevor Williams, who stink called and said he stinks, started getting ground balls, soft contact. He walks a guy, boom, double play. Just stuff like that can really ruin an inning and kind of kill that momentum you might have. So I would lean under with the Phillies. Mick Abel's been pretty good, and if you don't know much about him, the number 2 pitching prospect for the Phillies, you can go look at his numbers. I think he'll strike out more eventually, but so far he's been working his way through. I don't know that they'll let him get deep into the game and go a third time through the lineup, so you'll probably see a good bit of the Phillies bullpen. But we'll wait and see as they're stretching him out and working to find out what type of pitcher they have. All right, let's get to the second game. That's the Astros and the A's, and we're actually going to talk today about both of the new stadium. I call this stadium Coors Light. If you look at Coors Field, we know what it does. The home runs, as big as that ballpark is, it warrants a lot of extra base hits just because there's so much ground to cover out there. And we get high-scoring games. The thin air the ball carries. We don't have the thin air out in Sacramento, but what we do is have a bandbox of a stadium. It gets hot, and we've already seen it, double-digit totals with the A's, no matter who they're playing. And honestly, it doesn't even matter who's on the mound sometimes because the ball's just going to carry at that ballpark. The wind is blowing out at 9 miles an hour. It's about 80 degrees there. It's Lance McCullers and Mitch Spence, and I don't think either one of these pitchers are great by any stretch. Lance McCullers used to be really good. After the injuries, I still think he's going to hit a ton of bats. This A's team has a lot of power. They got some table setters up top too. If they can figure it out, I think there's some talent there, but they're just never going to get there because ownership's too cheap. Maybe if they go to Vegas and all this money's coming in and they start to spend money, things will get interesting again for them. But it really is sad because I do think they have some really good pieces, but they're never going to add. They're just not with this regime. So as we're looking at it, I would lean over here. I think it does look like a decent play. And I think, too, you're going to have to keep peeping this A's stadium just because July and August, it's going to be ridiculous. The ball is just going to carry. And getting into the next game, we're going to talk about the Rays Stadium, which is the Yankees minor league stadium. So let's get into this. It's Zach Eflin going against Ryan Pepio. Zach Eflin from Tampa. The Orioles traded for him from there. There's a lot of belief here that he wants to go back there and pitch yet again. He's solid. Like, I've never watched a pitcher where I'm going, yeah, he's going to go 6 innings and give up a run or two, and it'll probably be a solo home run. He is just so freaking solid when he goes out there. Just a guy you can trust. Now, he's not overwhelming. He's not going to, most days, he's not going to strike out a lot of guys. But I think we talk about certain guys in the league being professional hitters, and what does that mean? You know, your pinch hitters, the guys that they're getting paid to just go up there and hit the baseball. You don't expect anything from them otherwise. And when you talk about this, I just think Zach Eflin is a professional pitcher, a guy that you can put in your rotation and trust that you're going to be in every game that he pitches. And with the Rays, Pepio's been pretty damn good this year. His whip's right around 1.13, I believe. ERA in the 3s. So herein lies the rub, if you will, with this game, because as soon as I saw it and I saw the weather, I'm like, Oh, this is juicy. I am going to lean over here. I'm not lean. I'm going to lean to the over here. I'm not actually leaning over. It feels like mid 90s there with the humidity in Florida. And again, this is a bandbox of a stadium where the ball is just going to fly out. If guys can lift this and get fly balls, once the heat picks up and the humidity picks up, which it's going to get much hotter down there in Florida, ball should be flying out of that stadium. The one issue we've had is the Rays have been a little wanting on offense. If you've watched them, it hasn't been great. They have some nice players there, but I've watched games where they were in perfect hitting situations, and just to be brutally honest, I got burned on a ton of overs there where I'm like, this is a perfect spot, and then the Rays just don't hit. It's just frustrating, but I would definitely think over here as a lean. I'll probably have an official play on it, later on, but we'll see, because again, it's a small slate tonight with 6 or 7 games. With me talking about 4 of them, I'm assuming some of these might end up being plays for me. I don't know. When I start breaking down everything, we'll see. Lastly, what I wanted to talk about was the Angels and Yankees. This is Jose Soriano versus Clark Schmidt. Mid-60s, winds blowing in about 7 miles an hour. And as I said, along the East Coast, we're going to see some rain. We have colder temps here, which I tend to look at when we're looking at wind blowing in and all the things that can factor, because heat obviously is going to help the bats. Colder weather does not. And it's not like it's freezing or anything. It's mid-60s, but it's the summertime. My free play today is going to be the under in this Yankees-Angels game. I think both pitchers are solid. Soriano could get just absolutely not annihilated by this Yankees lineup, but I actually like the way he's been pitching. I think he's and I like some of the bullpen pieces that the Angels have after watching them here in Baltimore over the weekend. I think there's some interesting arms out there. But on top of it, Clark Schmidt's a guy that I just think, the same way I kind of talked about Zach Eflin, he's not there. He'll strike out more guys, but I think he's just a solid pitcher. I think this guy's probably going to pitch in the league 10 to 12 years, because you look at his makeup and what he does. He just comes in and he keeps you in games. He'll get the Ks when he needs it. And I feel like he's been a godsend to the Yankees, especially with some of the injuries that they've had. Garrett Cole, even you go back to last year, Ryan Yarbrough is another guy that's kind of found himself. So just to recap, guys, my free play is going to be the under. I do think there's a lot of interesting stuff. So make sure you go to pickdawgz.com. You can check out all the packages we have up there. It is kind of, I got to be honest, it's fun seeing my name on the leaderboard. I'm just starting off, so, things are going to, they'll fluctuate one way or another, but so far things have been really good for me in the WNBA. Major League Baseball, as I said, that's what I love. I love getting in and breaking down these slates, and it always starts with weather. That's the first thing I look at, and then I start getting into pitching matchups and things. So I think weather can give you an edge, but I also think there's other ways to find edges on games to help you be a profitable bettor. So I will see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching, guys. Pickdawgz.com.